Hey everyone, long time no see. Today is July 8th and it is 4:55 in the evening. Um, we've kind of had a little bit of a light week so far this week and um, finished a little early today, so I figured I would take this chance to update my blog, my vlog, I guess. Um, Kind of update you guys on how I'm doing, maybe some funny stories, some little things here and there, as well as catch up on my reflections. There's two I'm going to do today, and probably three I'll do over the span of next week, um, or maybe one this weekend or something. But I'll start out by just doing the reflection questions. They're one of them will be pretty fun, and then um, maybe just try to recall a lot of the different things that I've done the past, I guess, week. It's been about a week since I've updated the blog. So, anyway, reflection question. It's officially number 2, but number 1 for this video. It's about food and calories. My instructions say, pay attention to the typical foods that Indians eat, both rural and urban, when you have access to both. Comment on the typical meal. What is the staple food that most often appears? What kind of vegetables, starches? How much variety is there in the foods that Indians eat, and how does this compare to my diet at home? Uh, I guess I'll start at the bottom and work backwards. It is absolutely nothing like my diet at home, not even close. Um, I don't mind spicy food. As a matter of fact, I like a lot of spicy food. Um, we had something last night in a nicer restaurant that tasted a lot like pico de gallo, and I was super, super happy to find that because it just, I don't know, it tasted like home. It tasted like something that was familiar, but was still kind of spicy. So I don't mind that, but everything is just spicy. And just take a moment, I'll give you a moment to just think about how if you ate spicy food at least for lunch and dinner every single day, how old that would get. And for me, it's gotten pretty old, and it takes a toll on your stomach. It just makes you lose your appetite, especially when it's this hot. Imagine it being as hot as it is at home, which is mid 90s Fahrenheit, and humid, and then you go to lunch in a place that isn't air conditioned and eat spicy food. It's been pretty rough. That honestly has been the number one thing I've struggled with most here, is just not having American food. It sounds kind of silly, but it's a big part of the culture, food is, and um, I wasn't prepared for it. And so, anyway, um, let's see. The difference between rural and urban. To be honest with you, from what little I've seen of rural food that they eat, it's very similar. Everything is um, vegetarian, but they say veg. Um, let's see, I lost my train of thought just for a second. Um, most everyone in India, I don't want to overgeneralize, but there's quite a few people in India that are vegetarian. So almost every meal you get is going to be vegetarian. So I have missed eating meat. We get chicken pretty common, but you do kind of have to almost seek it out. You almost have to intentionally ask for it, non-veg. Um, but you can't find beef. That's in a later blog, but the cow is considered sacred, um, and is in some ways worshipped. So no beef at all. I think some people eat mutton, they call it, so goat or lamb. We saw a goat head on the street the other day. There was a guy butchering chickens, and on his stand was a goat head just sitting there. So that was a little interesting. Um, let's see. So we went into a village one day, and there was a lady just outside cooking. She just had a little fire built, just about this big around, and was just cooking over that fire. And The food, it wasn't something I had recognized, but it looked very, very spicy, first of all. And then, but it looked very similar to the type of stuff that we would be eating here in the urban area. Um, so, a staple food, you find rice, white rice with almost everything. Um, I would say there's a lot of paneer, which I hope I'm right, but from my understanding, paneer is it's kind of like cheese, but it has the consistency of tofu. I've also heard it referred to as cottage cheese, which is nothing like American cottage cheese, so um, don't have that notion. But um, paneer masala, masala is another thing that you find quite a bit of. Um, Someone just walked in. I don't know who it is. I don't even really know how to describe the spice here because it's spicy. It makes you want to take a drink of water. Fan off your mouth or something. But it's also just very strong. All the flavors are really in your face, and there's nothing subtle about the food. Um, in the U.S., I found that most U.S. foods are rather bland, that salty or sweet. So there's no in like the packaged food that you buy here, no corn syrup, all real sugar. Um, for the most part, all real ingredients. There's nothing fake about the packaged food that you find here, for the most part. So that's actually pretty cool. I think that's neat, um, but it does make things taste different. The Oreos taste different. I have Oreos around here somewhere. Um, had some little chocolate muffins. They taste different. And then foods that are more savory, less sweet, um, all kind of have the same sort of just kind of spicy tinge to it. It's almost as if it's not spicy, you're not eating. That's what I get from a lot of the food here. So, um, spice, I would say, is a common denominator on everything. You'll find chapati or naan with almost every meal. Chapati is usually a little bit smaller. I guess I'll hold it next to my face so you can see. And thinner, it's almost exactly like a tortilla. But I found that it's a little bit drier. Um, it's not quite as moist, and maybe isn't quite as sweet. It's usually made from whole grain rather than maybe flour. Um, and then naan is not sure that it's made from flour exactly, but it's a little more fluffy, and it's kind of a mix between a tortilla and pita, if you're familiar with those. Um, so you find those with almost every meal. Um, but yeah, fruit. There's tons of fruit stands. Bananas are everywhere right now. Mangoes are everywhere. We saw some apples and pomegranates on the way back to Jogue today. Um, Watermelons, pineapples are the common fruits right now. I didn't learn this until maybe last week, but Nagpur is known as the Orange City, not only because one of the major colors that you find a lot in India is orange, but because they grow a lot of oranges here. But unfortunately, their harvesting season for oranges are December, January, February, because it stays very temperate year round here. So no oranges, very little citrus fruits. We do find limes every once in a while. As a matter of fact, Jen and I, there's lots of coconuts here too. So there was a stand that you could get a coconut and they'd cut it open and you could drink the water. And you could also get lime juice or pineapple juice in just a cup. So we couldn't pass up the chance to do a lime in the coconut. But of course, there's lots of things that are lost in translation here. Um, they lost that we wanted just the lime juice in the coconut, so they mixed the coconut water and the lime juice, and both of them were warm, and it was not good. But still couldn't pass up the opportunity to try it at least. So yeah, anyway, I feel like I've rambled on about food, but typical meal, staple food. Vegetables, you actually find a lot of green bell peppers in a lot of stuff. That kind of surprised me. I couldn't tell you why, but I think of like South America, Central America as green bell peppers, or Southern United States, and didn't really think, oh, it's going to be in India too. Onions are in a lot of things. They serve cucumbers with almost every meal, cold, just sliced cucumbers. Carrots you'll find quite a bit as well. So that's variety. As far as variety goes, I personally don't feel like there's a lot. I feel like it's the same spice on just a bunch of different stuff. So we've had okra with the same spice, and you have potatoes with the same spice. You find, bell peppers with the same spice, soybeans with the same spice. To me, it's gotten a little bit old, um, but I could see that if that's just a cultural thing, that spice is common in almost everything you eat, then it would just make sense that you change up the different vegetables that you eat with it, and occasionally, chicken as well, and maybe fish. Um, so anyway, spice has done its toll on me. Um, I will be extremely excited to get home. I told Amelia today probably the first thing I'll do is get home and run over to the McDonald's and have a Big Mac. No lie, that's probably really what I'm going to do. Um, and then I told my parents the other night that one of the first things I want is a big thing of fried chicken. And they said, I wanted it from like Cane's or Chicken Express. And they said, well, how about we just make it when we get home, which is always the better option. So Big Mac in the airport, fried chicken when I get home, Chipotle the next day. I have it all planned out. I'm really excited to get home and have some food from back home. Some Mexican food sounds really good. That sounds kind of silly, being in India and wanting to go back to the United States to have Mexican food, but it sounds great right now. Anyway, moving along, reflection number 3, which is the second one for this blog, is sanitation and personal hygiene. So this one's an interesting one. Let's see. Urban. What kind of sanitation system, if any, do people in the urban area in Nagpur, have to use? Are they using it? What are their practices for hand washing? Is it easy to wash your hands after using the toilet? If there are public toilets, how are they kept clean and by whom? Good questions. Now, pardon me if any of this is a little, how do you say, not crude, that's not the right word, but graphic, maybe, might be the right word, because sanitation here at times can be rather graphic, at least compared to what I'm used to. Sanitation system. I think this is... Okay, toilets are addressed later in this post. So, sanitation systems, I've noticed it's pretty common to have piped water and a tap. I may have mentioned it in my previous blog, but most everyone in Nagpur, and I'm going to even generalize and say most everyone in India, doesn't have 24/7 water flow like we do in the United States. They call it 24/7 flow here. But instead, they have water for about an hour a day, and they just fill up a big tank at their house, and that's what they use for the remainder of the day or until it runs out, and then they just fill it up whenever the water's back on. And so that in itself poses a lot of health risks, just because when the water's not flowing, it's stagnant, and I think that everyone in the United States can understand stagnant water isn't the best. Even inside a closed system, if one little bacteria can get in, it can spread. One little virus can get in, it can spread. So that can be very dangerous, not having a continuous flow of water. As well as people store it in these big cisterns, either below their house or in a tank. And, you can imagine with the number of animals that are running the street, or, the birds pooping on the roof, and then the water runs off the roof into your cistern, you get a lot of fecal coliform, poop, in your cistern. And that poses a really, really big health risk. The Georgia Tech students are working on a project that somewhat has to do with that. And so anyway, that's kind of how the water system works here. But I've noticed most places are going to have some sort of tap, either public or private in their own homes, where you can wash your hands. Soap isn't always the most readily available thing, but you can almost always, at least wash your hands with water. So that's really nice to see. Um, as far as the practice of hand washing goes, I know that toilet paper isn't commonly used, which when you don't have toilet paper, your left hand is your best friend. And so um, I don't see people walking around with poop or pee on their hands, so I would assume that it's pretty common practice once you finish using the restroom, you'll wash your hands. Um, so let's see, is it easy to wash your hands after using the toilet? I'd say so, unless you're using open defecation, which is just um, using the restroom outdoors, then it's going to be difficult, of course. You might just have to wipe your hand on a leaf or something. Um, if there are public toilets, how are they kept clean? Um, I can honestly say the only public toilet I've been in was at Neary, um, and so it's public, but it's closed off. It's not like anyone can walk into Neary and use the restroom. So, but even then, um, by Western standards, United States standards, um, the grossest bathroom I've ever been in. So if that's in a semi-private area, you can imagine what an actual public area would look like. And I mean, you can smell them from 50 yards away. You can smell a public restroom, and it's a very distinct smell. Distinct. Huh? Um, it does stink, but it's not. It doesn't really smell like poop or pee, what you would necessarily think it does. But when you smell it, you know that that's what a bathroom is because what a bathroom smells like because you smelt it before. It's interesting. I don't really exactly know how to explain it, but that's in my own personal experience. Other people may observe that in a different way. But um, so anyway, it escapes me now, but the lowest caste or class, I guess is a better way that we would recognize it, are the ones known for sweeping up the streets, picking up trash, and I would assume taking care of, the public toilets and restrooms and cleaning those. Um, and so if they even clean them, I haven't observed that personally. So um, if they are cleaned, I would assume it's the lower caste that takes care of that. Anyway, rural. Do you have any experience yet with sanitation practices in rural areas outside of the city? Ask a local person if they know. Um, I've been in rural areas, I guess just once, twice. I'd have to go back and think, but definitely for sure once. Um, and I guess the only thing that I could really comment on as far as sanitation goes there was that I noticed on the very edge of the town, kind of by the entrance to the little town village that we were at, was some sort of outhouse. So I'm assuming a dug latrine, into the ground. Um, Probably no more than 30, 40 meters away from the nearest tap. So pretty close, but there was still some distance between it. I wouldn't assume that leaching into that water supply is a problem, especially because it's piped. So unless there was a break in the pipe and there was leaching into the soil and then that soil leached into the pipes, um, it's not likely, but the potential is still there, I would assume. Um, Anyway, that's the only thing that I really noticed. I didn't notice anyone. Um, uh, well, I guess as far as a toilet, that's the only thing I noticed as far as sanitation. But um, in the village, there were animals everywhere, and everyone just kind of had whatever animals they owned just sitting outside of their house. Um, as we're taking water samples, they would bring a vessel out and we'd fill up a bag. It's called a Whirlpack bag, and you spin it and then tie it up. And so we'd be waiting outside to fill up the Whirlpack bag, and it'd be a goat just right there at our feet, which would just pee, or a cow, or a dog, or something would just start peeing or pooping just right there in front of you, right on someone's doorstep. And, to us, we try not to react, like, oh my gosh, they're peeing right here. But at the same, you look and you make a mental note of it. But to the villagers, it's just, I mean, I pee there, you pee there. it's it's just kind of part of their everyday life. It's just seeing their whatever animals they own just use their front doorstep as the restroom. Um, and so, then here's the graphic part. You see urine run down, and you kind of wonder, well, where is this going? Is this going to flow into some sort of water source? Because if rain falls there, it's going to drain, and water's going to eventually collect somewhere. And do they use that water as so it just kind of makes you think, like, where's all this animal urine going? Is it going to contaminate the water that they're drinking or using for irrigation or bathing or what? So that was interesting, as well as um, there are a lot of animals that you'll see, and this is, I think, the last post that we have. I read ahead a little bit. Yeah, Reflection 6, this should be next week, about animals. Animals, animals everywhere is the title of it. But the animals that they have there, I mean, many of them we would see and immediately call, animal DHS. I don't exactly know what it's called, animal welfare, and say these people are mistreating their animals because there's a goat that's sitting outside of someone's house that you can tell there's days worth of feces and urine right there next to its hind end, and it's just laying there, short, shallow breaths, and eyes shut, mouth open, and this animal has been sick for a long time and is about to die. And or at least in our culture, you would think, well, let's take it to at least the edge of town, kill it, and take care of it and get it out of the way. They just leave it there to die, and if it poops and pees right there on your front doorstep and just days builds up of that right there, then so be it. That's just life, and death, I suppose. But that was a little bit of an eye-opener. Apparently it wasn't spotted by everyone, but it definitely left an impression on me. Just seeing... Anyway, that's another post, and maybe I'll revisit that for the animals post next week. So anyway, that's just a comment on rural hygiene, I guess. There was a lady down at the river. If you look at my pictures on Facebook, there's a picture of a lady washing her clothes in the river, and using detergents in the river water, using the river water. So I see it as maybe not an oxymoron. It's almost ironic that you're using detergent, but then you're using really, really dirty water. So it's kind of canceling each other out, I guess. So anyway, that's not good for the river environment. It's probably not the best for your clothes either, but it's what they have, so that's what they make do with. Okay, and then lastly, personal. What kind of toilet have you been given access to? Is it squat or Western style? How comfortable, pleasant is it? Clean and odor-free or not? How readily available is water and soap for washing hands and bathing? So first of all, I'd like to make a personal comment to Dr. Chamberlain. I know exactly what you did here. You know exactly what all the answers to these are. You just want to hear us say it. But it's a good thing to say and to make comments about, because it is something that's very, very different from the West, and that I think that one thing that until I took Dr. Sabatini's course, or until I saw pictures of other people traveling to the East, that I had no idea this sort of stuff existed. So I am glad you put this in here, but it's funny to talk about. And for those who haven't been exposed to the East or just kind of non-Western cultures, then this could be an interesting experience, at least hearing for you. So what kind of toilet? Squat or Western? Okay, let's break this down. A Western-style toilet is what you have in your bathroom right now, which is you sit down, there's a toilet seat, it's a raised stool, it's like sitting on a chair, it has water in the bowl, and you turn around and you flush it, and everything goes away. That's Western style. I've even heard of Western style where there's not water and you just take a cup of water and pour and it washes everything out. Um, that's not what. Actually, I take that back. In our bathrooms here in Jogue, I think just because it's a nicer establishment, they probably know there's going to be plenty of Western people staying here. They have Western style toilets. Um, so that's really nice that we can come back here and have our nice Western style toilets to use. Um, but everywhere else that I've noticed is a squat style, or we've been saying Eastern style toilet. I don't know how technically correct that is, but basically it's a porcelain slab and it has a hole and then kind of grooves on each side where your feet go, and you squat over this hole in the ground. Um, I want to say in one of the Indian airports that we went to, Amelia told me that there was both squatting and Western toilets. So whichever you were comfortable with using, you could use either one. So that was kind of nice, at least to recognize that people prefer one or the other, and have both available for you. But um, I will say I have used a squatting toilet, and it's, I guess if you're not used to it, it can be rather difficult. um, and I forgot that. Now, this is where it gets graphic. It doesn't bother me. I think they're funny stories. They're really embarrassing, but they're funny. But um, I forgot that toilet paper isn't really a thing, so I went and used the restroom, um, a squatting toilet, and then I finished and I look around, and there's nothing. There's a tap where you could fill up a little cup that they had there to pour and basically flush the toilet. There's a pour flush toilet, squatting toilet. But I wasn't about to use the water from that tap or that cup to help wash things. Um, so I was like, I'm not about to use my hand. I'm absolutely not. So I kind of waddled over to the door and look out and to see if there were paper towels that I could use. No paper towels, but there was someone out there using the urinal at the time, and so I shut the door real fast, and then eventually I just kind of had to pull up my pants and go find a paper towel somewhere else in the facility, and kind of scurry in and grab some paper towels and scurry out, and then go back to the bathroom and finish everything up. But I learned an important lesson, and if Amelia is comfortable with sharing, she learned an important lesson similar to that about carrying toilet paper with you everywhere you go. Dr. Sabatini, if you watch this, we didn't take your advice and stuff our pockets full of toilet paper. I did bring a roll of toilet paper with me, but I don't stuff my pockets every day full of toilet paper, and I should. But so that was an important lesson to use, but that's the only time I've had to use a public toilet, fortunately. So anyway, how comfortable, pleasant is it? I think I commented on that. Not very comfortable, not very pleasant, rather smelly, rather dirty. Not pleasant. I did not enjoy it. How readily available is water and soap for hand washing and bathing? I brought my own soap, so I couldn't really comment on bathing. They didn't have any here, but I'm sure if we asked, they would probably figure something out to give us some soap for washing our hands. I haven't noticed any hand soap. We use a lot of hand sanitizer, so we might wash our hands and then use hand sanitizer, or vice versa. But like I mentioned earlier, soap isn't just a real readily available thing that you can just wander past on the street. So anyway, that concludes the journal assignments, the required things that I have to talk about. Those are good because a lot of times there's just so many experiences that it's hard to have a guide of things to go by. I keep my little notebook in my back pocket when I can and scribble some things down, some thoughts every here and there. Slouching down. Every time I've talked on FaceTime to someone, they always ask me, "Oh, what's behind you?" These are just my blinds. I know it looks kind of like a Showtime curtain or something like that, but just my blinds. I think this is my first blog from the new Joke House, although we've been here for over a week, I'm pretty sure. But it's pretty cozy. I got the smallest room because I'm in my room by myself. We have a TV with like 2 out of 200 stations speaking English. So we enjoy turning on Al Jazeera, and there's a sports station. I've learned cricket. I know cricket now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to unplug a few things from my computer real quick, and show you a couple things that I have acquired over the past couple days. Ejecting my external hard drive. Another thing that I was going to comment on is that the reason I haven't updated a video in a while is that it's so nice to come back here and lock myself in my room and turn on some sort of Western TV show or movie that I have on my computer and kind of, this sounds bad, and I don't mean this in a negative way whatsoever, but just kind of escape from India and kind of forget that you're in India for a while. Because when you don't speak the language and you're not a part of this culture, it can be really difficult. And for me personally, I found it kind of difficult to just, I want to say, just exist. Every single day, it's a little stressful for me. You can't communicate easily. It's really hot because we try to drink only filtered water. Not from the tap. I finally got smart and I filled up some 2-liter bottles of water, or 2-liter bottles full of water, just to keep on standby because we only have one filter here. But we just drink out of these bottles, so we're limited to how much water we drink per day. So I've been perpetually dehydrated. So you just don't always feel the best, and it's just hustle and bustle, and people are always staring. Everybody stares at you. And so it's really nice to come back here, crank the AC down. Actually, speaking of that, when I got back, I turned it way down, and it's starting to get really cold in here. And so, turn on your fan, your lovely fan, and your AC, cool down, and just kind of veg for a little while. But anyway, back to my original. Let's see. So I acquired a cricket bat. So you can see it's about waist high, kind of wide, has a little arch in the back. The real professional ones have. They're arched a little more, angled a little more, and a little heavier. But, good cricket batting stance that I've learned. Also picked up a wicket set, so it's all tied together right now for travel, but you set the 3 wickets up on the stand here and bowl or pitch towards those. Okay, let's see. That'll probably fall over. I got my nice Western style shirt for a whopping $5. No, not even that, like $4. Actually wearing one of these tonight, but the female version of these, they're basically kind of have a high collar. Some can be long sleeve, short sleeve, no sleeve, and they come to about the knee. They're called a kurta for females or a kurta for a male. So this is maybe a little short. But anyway, and you wear pajamas under it. They're just basically really big baggy pants. So I'll get a little closer so maybe you can see some detail on it. The high collar and buttons up. These are the pajamas. I won't undo them, but they're just real light. Well, I will undo them because it's kind of funny. They're really wide, and they're supposed to be this wide, and yeah, they're ginormous. I thought I was getting the wrong size, but I wasn't. This is the right size for me, and they fit you like a tent, like a balloon, kind of. And then I got kind of a more formal one, a more formal kurta. This one's a full-length kurta, so it comes all the way down below my knees, and it has a little more, let's see, no, you can't really see the detail on it, but it has some, a nice pattern on it. It's real fancy, and then you wear this with the pajamas under it, and then the blue vest The button's all the way up on top. I saw it on a mannequin. That's the only reason I knew how to pick it out. So those were a couple purchases that I acquired. I'm sure people back home enjoy to see that. Most males don't actually wear the kurta every day, but most people just wear like a collared shirt or a t-shirt and jeans. But you occasionally see a male, and especially older males, in kurtas. So I thought I'd get one traditional Indian wear. Another comment that I can make about just things in general is that everything's cheap. Very, very cheap. I think buying all those clothes was the most expensive purchase I made, around like 30 or 40 US dollars. Otherwise, dinner, lunch, you eat for $2 US. Let's see. I got this pair of sunglasses for 150 rupees, which translates to roughly $2, $2.40, something like that, US dollars. Everything is just insanely cheap. That'll actually be something tough to get accustomed to coming back to the States, is that for a bottle of water it's just pennies. For a soda it's like 25 US cents, but here it's 20 rupees or something, which is around 30 cents, I guess. So going back to the States and paying $1.50 for a bottle of soda this size is going to be a little strange, I guess. Let's see, other comments. One funny story. I'm not sure I put anything on Facebook about it, but I posted pictures of the zoo that we went to. When you are white and you go to the zoo in Nagpur, you become the zoo's biggest attraction. And everybody, as if people didn't stare at us before. Now we're at the zoo, and I guess people just think that when you come to the zoo, that's a place that you take pictures of exotic things. Because outside the zoo gates, no one really bothered us. Just kind of left us alone. We got a lot of stares, but when we went inside the zoo, everybody started to, one photo, one photo, one photo. Okay, we'll take one photo. And one photo turns into three, and then they switch the person taking the photo, and then they take three more, and then, oh, well, we accidentally left someone out, so then they put another person in, and then take a photo, then switch the photo taker, and then it's a mess. And so we couldn't linger in one spot for more, no joke, 30 seconds, and we'd be swarmed with people. And one photo, I held 2 or 3 different children. Hold my child and take a picture. Toddlers, 2-year-olds. Hold my 2-year-old and take a picture with them. Okay? Very strange. And for us, I think it's been something it's hard for us to grasp. Why are you staring so much? Why do you just want to take a picture of us? And we have to keep reminding ourselves that there is very little cultural or any sort of ethnic diversity here. And so everyone is Indian. We got excited when we saw some East Asians because it was something different. Frankly, we haven't seen a black person while we've been here. And it's a very strange thing, and I think that something that as an American we can be a little bit proud of is that it's been very strange and almost a little sad for us not to see ethnic diversity when we just go out places. In the United States, you're used to seeing people from almost every continent everywhere you go. Or at least a heritage from every continent everywhere you go. Blonde hair, blue eyes, brown hair, green eyes, this, that, the other. But here, everyone is Indian. We saw a white person with red hair the other day, and he had his headphones on, but we leaned out of the auto rickshaw and yelled, white guy, because we were hoping he might hear us and we could wave to the white guy. So I guess that experience, seeing another white person, reaffirmed why people stare so much, because you stick out and it's exciting to see something different. And so when you see something different, it's worth taking a picture. So also, we think that it could be that they thought I was Justin Timberlake, but I think that's more of a running joke than us being serious. um, so anyway, that was a mess. Of the hour and a half we spent at the zoo, I'm sure at least half of the time was spent taking pictures and shaking people's hands, and um, so that was a mess. That was really funny. It was a fun experience. It did get a little frustrating though, because we wanted to see the animals that they had there. It wasn't Their zoo wasn't anything like a zoo you would imagine here, but to be honest, all of us had pretty low standards for what we were going to see, and we were pleasantly surprised. It was a little bit bigger, and it was almost more like a big park where people could go and have lunch and play in the open areas and the manicured grass and stuff. So it was pretty fun. But there's not sure if I've uploaded the zoo pictures yet. I think there's a couple. No, I haven't actually. So I'll upload those pretty soon. A couple funny things that we saw there. Let's see. Sita Bardi. I'm not saying that completely correct. I think it might be a nasal tone um, that you use in Hindi. Actually, it's a Marathi word. Sita Bardi market that we've gone to. It's an older market. Um, um, I've posted pictures about it. That it's a street that it's an active street, so there's cars passing on it, but just shops everywhere. There's little carts on the sidewalks and then shops on the side, and it's loud and it's crowded, but it's a lot of fun. And you go in and everything's just dirt cheap, and it's really cool to just go and buy souvenirs and just fun stuff like the Western shirt that I showed you and the sunglasses, and you could go there with $10 in your pocket and walk away with tons of stuff. $10 in your pocket and walk away with tons of stuff, including lunch and snacks and stuff. So, but anyway, I really enjoy going to Sita Bardi Market. But an interesting comment about that area, there's a place called Big Bazaar, which is kind of their equivalent of a Walmart nearby. It goes Big Bazaar, a couple traffic stops, and then the Eternity Mall, which is by our standards a pretty small mall. And then across the street from that is Sita Bardi. And once you enter Sita Bardi, no one really bothers you. There's a few people that will come over and say, "Come in my store, come in my store." And, we really stand out and people are staring, of course. But when you leave Sita Bardi and you're around Eternity Mall and Big Bazaar, we've had the same beggars come up to us several times, and they're relentless. They'll follow you for quite a ways and actually like tug on your shirt and and tap you and sir, 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 help, please, 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 and begging for money. And usually it's children, and you do feel very bad, but as soon as you pull out your wallet, you're putting your wallet at risk, at being snatched, and then you're also putting being swarmed by other homeless people at risk. So it's very sad to see people begging on the street and asking for money, and you wish you could help, just like a lot of times in the United States, when you genuinely see someone that's homeless, you wish you could do something to help, but that you're just kind of opening yourself up to a whole different world of begging and whatnot. So, especially being white and being a Westerner, it can be dangerous. So, you almost have to be very rude and ignore them and literally turn to them and go like this and say, "Go away, go away." And it's sad and it makes you feel kind of bad inside, but it's a reality. And then also, that's where most people will come up and actually touch you and try to get you to come over to their stand or to their shop. And we've had a strange instance where someone said, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said, "Don't spend your money here, stay in the United States, don't come back here," or something like that. The guy seemed rather uneducated and rather poor, and so I'm not sure exactly what he was trying to say, but he did speak some English, so I guess he is somewhat educated um, and was able to communicate that, whatever it was supposed to mean. So that was kind of odd. Didn't know exactly what to think of that. Um, but around that area, it's a little sketchy. It's a little uncomfortable. But once you've learned just how to deal with it, just head forward. Unless you're interested in buying something, don't look at it. Just keep walking. When people get in your way, just keep walking. Don't look at anyone. Don't acknowledge anyone, and they pretty much leave you alone. So you just kind of have to learn. I've learned it's similar in places like New York City and Chicago. Don't look at the people, and they'll leave you alone. So that was interesting. It's something to get used to. The autos or the rickshaws, the auto rickshaws that you run into, they're basically like little motorcycles. Sound like a weed eater engine, and they have. I need to actually take a picture of one now that I think about it. But they just kind of have a little hood on them and a bench seat in the back. Nagpur is, I don't want to say one of the few places, but one of the larger cities that you genuinely have to barter for how expensive a ride is. So in places like New Delhi and Mumbai, you're supposedly go off of a meter, so it's a base charge of 15 rupees, and then per kilometer or half kilometer that you travel, they charge you, and or by passenger. But here, an auto pulls up, and you say, "This is where I'm going. This is what I'm offering to pay you." Very few times have we been turned down, I think, because people are excited to drive a white person, as well as we usually overestimate how much we need to pay, because it's very easy to get out a 100 rupee bill and say, Sitabardi Market, and they see 100 rupees, they say, where? We say, Sitabardi, and they go, oh, Sita, with the proper pronunciation. They say, oh, Sitabardi, yeah, and then they do this, and you get in the back, and they take off. And when you get there, you give them the 100 rupees, and all's good. And so, the old saying, money talks. It definitely talks if you hold up 100 rupees, and we're definitely overpaying. We should be paying maybe between 60 and 80 rupees, but we ventured, $1 US is 63 rupees. So we say, what's an extra 50, 75 cents just to make sure that we're communicating clearly. And, once we get there, there's no dispute over what we owe them. So getting in an auto is fun. I enjoy riding in an auto. I think it's a lot of fun. It can be scary. Intersections, they don't always follow. Sometimes the light isn't even on. So people just come up full speed to an intersection, and then they get right to the middle and kind of stop and figure it out and pass each other and honk and then continue on. So it's going through an intersection, especially in an auto, can be scary, but it's also a lot of fun. I feel like an auto expert, even though I've only been here for 2.5 weeks, but taking an auto is pretty enjoyable. Oh, as far as the work we've been doing, this last week we spent a lot of the time working with Andy, who is a post-grad student from Georgia Tech, and then 2 super senior 5th-year students at Georgia Tech, Sam and Shannon, both girls, Sam and Shannon. And working on their project. To sum it up, they're working on PA test kits. So basically something that they can pass out to rural residents it's just a test tube and has some chemicals in the bottom. You unscrew the top, you fill it full of water, and you keep it out at room temperature. And after a day, if it turns purple, then your water is no good. It means it has coliform or fecal coliform in it. And so what they're doing is they're testing to see how accurate those PA test kits are. So they're doing the test kits as they've proposed them, and then something called membrane filtration, or MFT, membrane filtration technique, where they basically take the water, they put it in a cup, and then filter it through a fine filter, put that on a Petri dish that has coliform food, I guess you could consider it, put that Petri dish in the incubator overnight, open it back up, and look on the bottom of it and count how many E. coli coliform have grown. And then that's a good indicator of whether the test kit should have been positive or negative. So basically saying if the test kit is really working, indicating that there's coliform or not. So they've been working really, really hard on that, and I think that we were lucky enough to be a really big help to them last week. I think one thing that we found here is that we feel more like that we're kind of a bit of a hindrance, and that we're just kind of someone to be shown around and chauffeured everywhere, but we really want to be here to help and experience through um, actually doing, rather than just, here's how we do this, watch us do it, and um, so we're hoping that we're helping, but last week we know for sure that we were a big help. Um, so that's what we did all last week, and all of us got to spend a day out in a rural village, doing some collecting some samples. So that's been interesting. We had a 4th of July celebration on the 4th with a lot of our Indian friends. So we did our very best attempts to make it as American as possible. At Big Bazaar, their equivalent of Walmart, we found tank tops that, if you look on Facebook, you can see them, that are American flag tank tops. And we were like, well, we can't not buy these for the 4th of July. So we did, and all the Americans here wore them for our party. We got corn on the cob, and half of them we cooked my way, which is in the microwave, basically steaming them, and then boiled some of them, and they were both really good. We were going to try to find like some veggie burgers, because that's a pretty American thing, having burgers. I actually called them hamburgers once, and everyone laughed at me. So it's just called burgers here. And but we had a difficult time finding burgers as we think of them. At KFC, of all places, they had burgers that were on buns, but it had an egg patty, then a hash brown, and then I think maybe like sour cream or something on it, and put together it was like a breakfast burger. And apparently KFC is a big place to go have breakfast, but they look gross. I didn't try one, so I guess I can't say that they're gross, but they did not look that great. So we were like, no, we'll pass on those burgers. We decided to order Domino's pizza instead, which I made a big boo-boo and ordered mediums instead of larges, so it wasn't enough food for everyone. But anyway, we got watermelon, had lots of watermelon corn, pizza. We had fireworks. We actually have a lot of fireworks left over. The fireworks here are less regulated, so pretty fun. We had some bottle rockets that we almost blew up a park twice, and someone's motorcycle. So after we almost blew up the motorcycle, we thought we better stop. And then we found some called Saddam bombs, and I posted a picture of it on Facebook, but it has Saddam Hussein's face on them, and they're basically like ginormous black cats, so big that they send a shockwave, and like you can feel the shockwave hit you. Those were really cool. They were really loud and really scary, but they were a lot of fun to set off. And then we had ones that were kind of bigger fireworks. I think our neighbors just right here next to Jogue didn't appreciate us shooting fireworks, but we were reassured by all of our Indian friends that India's always loud. Don't worry about it. They'll be fine. So we had a lot of fun shooting fireworks, listening to country music, playing washer toss with. We took the drawers out of our nightstands and used cut up water bottles and like large water bottle caps as our washers, and we played washer toss, and even taught that to our Georgia Tech friends. They didn't know what that was, so if you don't know what washer toss is, I'll teach you. Don't worry, it's fun. And had some ice cream and plenty of fruit, and it was a lot of fun. We had a really good time. Played some cards, did some American trivia for our Indian friends. So we had a good time doing that. Had our American flags everywhere. Anyway, I guess in closing, I've gone almost an hour on this, so if you've watched so far, thank you, I guess. And um, uh, but in closing, I guess to summarize this last few weeks, um, initially I would say that I was really not enjoying my time here in India, and I was having a really hard time getting used to the food, and the culture is just incredibly different, and it's very difficult to put into words, and I don't think you can put it into words because you have to experience how different it is. Um, when you go to another country or experience another culture in the United States, it's usually some sort of westernized culture, a romantic language, meaning Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese. You can pick out little words. It sounds familiar. The United States are used to hearing other languages, but here, Hindi, nothing, none of the words are the same. And so you never know what's going on. They actually integrate some English words as they're speaking Hindi or Marathi, which is the state language here. Each state basically has their own language, which can differ very much from another state's language or from Hindi, which is strange for us. But it would be like us speaking a whole different language from California, not being able to understand Californians. But um, so anyway, you can pick out some English words as they're speaking a lot of the times, but things are just so different here. The language, the food, the just the everyday life. Just how you treat each other. Not that it's necessarily bad here, but it's just different. And staring, I'm sure probably isn't just very accepted to just sit and stare at someone, but if you do that, no matter how different a person is in the United States, you get a pinch on your arm from your mom, or people say, "Hey, have some manners," don't stare, or whatever. But um, here, you get a lot of stares, and it's not very ethnically diverse, and it's just so different. It's hard to put into words. I wasn't having a great time about my first week here, but halfway through the second week, I started to really settle in and enjoy myself a little bit more, and um, found some fun things to go out and do, and some ways to cut loose in the evenings. And once you got used to the stairs and got used to the food a little bit, then it was all right. Found some food that you like, and um, just kind of make yourself at home a little bit. It's been a little more enjoyable. That's not to say that I'm really enjoying words are hard now. I'm very much enjoying coming back to the United States. Going to enjoy having some foods from back home, and there's a lot of just very, very, very small things that I couldn't necessarily tell you as of right now, but that I will look forward and took for granted back home. But it'll be nice to go anywhere and be able to speak English and communicate with people. And I think a lot of people on this trip from the United States have felt that things are a lot more relaxing here. I've kind of been the opposite. I think things are a little more stressful because it's hard to communicate and things are just very different. So going home, it's going to be very easy for me to sit back and just kind of relax and take a breath and eat some good food, and so it'll be good. But I think so far this week, it's Wednesday and it's flown by. We've had a couple days off. We had Monday and half of Tuesday off, so those days flew by real quick because we did a lot of sleeping. But I think the rest of this week is going to fly right on by, and then before you know it, here we are, week 4, and we're almost on our way home. We're going to stop in New Delhi, take a car ride to Agra, and see the Taj Mahal and the Agra Fort, which are two very famous landmarks in India. Stop in Dubai for a half day on our way home, and then because we're flying west, it appears to only be like a 2-hour flight or something like that, because we're staying with the sun as we travel west. But it's actually a 16-hour flight. Gonna arrive back in Dallas that morning of the 21st, I believe. So Looking forward to coming home. There's also things I'm definitely going to miss from here, so it'll be a bittersweet thing to be home. But it's not over. There's still time. There's still plenty of things to experience here. Um, be checking out for my next blog post. So for now, I say thank you for watching. Dhanyavad. Shukriya, I guess would be another word for thank you. And namaste. We'll see you next time.